Welcome to Stage Black with your host, U.S. Army veteran Latia Suttle, U.S. Navy veteran Daphne Wright, and U.S. Marine Corps veteran Marnisha Mintlow. Always been here, not going anywhere. On today's show, we have two guests. Our first guest is Kimbery DeWitt, an Atlanta, Georgia native who was a cryptologist from 2000 to 2008. She sailed aboard many Navy vessels during Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom. Her love for travel took her to over 12 countries, with her top three being Australia, Singapore, and Bali. After serving her country, Kimbery went to delve into her gift of writing, ultimately starting a new venture in filmmaking. She became bicoastal in 2016, traveling from Los Angeles to Atlanta, where she also works as a location professional in television and movies, with King Richard being one of her favorite jobs today. Today, Kimbery resides in Los Angeles. She has two German Shepherd fur babies, Kingdom and Ginger, and continues to work bicoastal as an independent filmmaker. Also on today's show is Irene Cruz, aka your girl Peaches, served in the Marine Corps as a communication technician. She worked as a structural mechanic, helping to build the MD-11, otherwise known as the FedEx cargo planes. For the past 25 years, Irene has worked as an information system analyst and technology instructor. As an outspoken advocate for veterans, Peaches was named Woman Veteran Leader of the Year in 2014 by Cal Vets, and in 2015, she was the first woman awarded Veteran of the Year for Los Angeles County. She has performed in multiple plays at the Blue Door Theater, the Wallace, and the Gaffin Playhouse. Your girl Peaches is a writer, actress, public speaker, and comedian. Since beginning her comedy journey almost 5 years ago, Irene has performed in Los Angeles and Chicago. She opened for the first Who's Got Next comedy tour, led a beginners comedy workshop for veterans, and is producing her comedy show entitled Peaches Party Playhouse. Shows are currently running through May 2025 at the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Mall in Los Angeles, California.
All right, welcome to Stage Black. Always been here, not going anywhere. We love to welcome our first guest is Miss Kimbery DeWitt. I can say that I know Kimberly. We were roommates when I first moved here to Los Angeles. So welcome, Kimberly. Thank you for joining us today.
She's got herself muted. Unmute yourself.
Oh, unmute yourself, Kimberly. Unmute yourself. We want to be able to hear you.
There she go.
Thank you so much for having me so much. And thank you just for this platform to share our stories.
All right, great. I know that you are originally from Atlanta, Georgia. So can you tell us, why did you join the Navy?
Oh my goodness. So I was bored with college. So I've always been like a creative person. So I went to college for music education. And so in college, in a regular college, you take your musical creative courses, and then you have to take the other courses, math, social studies, science, all that. And so I was acing my creative side, but I was skipping and failing in my other side. So I was bored. I was just like, I don't want to do this. If I can't just concentrate on music, I quit. So I quit. Worked at the Disney store at the airport for 2 years. Loved that job. I just loved just having fun. But then I was like, I want to travel. So I just joined the military to travel. That was it.
Okay, well, I joined to travel too, but my dreams didn't come true. I heard you got to travel a lot in the military.
I did. I was so blessed. So I was stationed. It happened when I was stationed overseas in Japan. I was there for 3 years, and I was what they call forward deployed. So I didn't live on the ship, Um, but I did often deploy, and I did because a lot of the women in my division hated going out to sea. And I didn't necessarily like it, but I wasn't out there like getting pregnant. They're like, DeWitt, you're the only female that hasn't gotten
Oh,
pregnant. So we're so sorry. I would come back from a 3 month tour and they're like, "Dude, we're so sorry." I would have 2 weeks like just chilling on base and they're like, "We got to send you out, or this happened, or 9/11 happened." So I was constantly going out, but it just ended up being a blessing in disguise because I really travel all over the Pacific.
That sounds fun.
okay, lots of fun. Now,
Yes.
you brought up that the young ladies were getting pregnant. So it sounds like there was a lot of dating going on. How was your dating life while you were in the military?
I always say, why couldn't I go on a normal date? I had just like funny dates. They were just crazy. I went on I went on a date with this one guy in Singapore, and we went to Planet Hollywood when there's a Planet Hollywood, and he's from Georgia. So when we went out, he put his gold grill in his mouth. And
Oh,
so
no.
when we went to the restaurant, he took them out because he had ribs. So he took his he took out his grill or whatever, and I was just like, he is so ghetto. But it took him out. We had fun. We left there and we were on our way to go to the Safari Night Zoo in Singapore, which is like highly, the people were like highly recommended. So we're on our way there and he looked at me and he was like, "You seen my teeth?" And I was like, "What?"
He done left his teeth at the restaurant.
And he was like, "My teeth." And I'm like, "Dude, no. Like, you took them out and you put them in a napkin." And so we go back to the restaurant. They're digging through the trash.
Mm-mm.
Then he goes off on me like, it's your fault. And I'm like, it's my fault. Like, I didn't. It was so crazy, but we did end up
That's
going to
cute.
the Safari Night Zoo, and that was fun. But I was like, that was crazy. And
Did
another
he
date I
find
went
teeth?
on, I was at this Thai restaurant. It was a perfect date, and I didn't know anything about peppers. And so I was eating and I picked up this really pretty red looking vegetable and I ate it and it was a hot chili pepper.
Oh,
And I didn't
no.
know that. And immediately, as soon as I bit it, like a tear ran down my eye. He was like, "You okay?" And I was like, I couldn't breathe. He's running through the restaurant, running at the bar, like, "She need help, she need help." And that's when I learned that milk will really calm down like hot peppers. So if you ever eat a really hot pepper and you can't, don't drink water, milk
No.
or
Oh,
yeah.
Did he find the grill? That's what we
yeah.
all. That's what
Trying to figure out.
everybody listening wants to know. Did he find those teeth?
Oh, they were
No.
looking through the trash can and he did not. And I was there the whole time, like, this is so embarrassed. He did not find it. He was
Oh.
like, "There were $800 and blah, blah, blah." And
Mm.
I'm like,
I see why you drove back $800.
I would have ran back because
it's a lot of
them
money back.
dollars is
It's expensive.
exactly for especially us young military folk.
Yes.
The
Hmm.
money was
Yeah.
tight. So Valentine's Day is Friday, so that's why I wanted to dig a little bit into your dating life as a military. Uh, well, while you were in the service, and then as a veteran. So I know as a veteran, I get a lot of stereotypes, right? People will see me and they find out that I served, and before they ask me, "What branch did you serve in?" and then they begin to guess. So I feel that that deals with some of the stereotypes that we have as military veterans. So what were some of the stereotypes you had to battle with while dating in the military? Because sometimes the stereotypes follow us there, and then after as a veteran.
Specifically, a woman vet.
I know. So in the military, being in the Navy and being on a ship, a lot of times the women on, first of all, the ratio a lot of times from women to men on a ship is really big. So on a small boy, like a DDG, I was on a small boy at one time. There were there were like 30, like 50 women to like 300 and something men.
Oh,
So we were greatly outnumbered a lot of times on those ships. And so we kind of get the reputation like we're loose because we have all these options. So a lot of times in the military, on the ships, they would assume if you're on a ship, especially if you lived on the ship, that you were a loose girl. And so, you know, I was dating this guy on a ship and they thought I was like that, and they found out I wasn't. But we kind of get that reputation that we're loose, being in the Navy and being on ships. But they quickly, was like, oh no, do it not like that. She's cool. Now, post dating for me was a little challenging, and the reason why is because unfortunately I went through MST, which is military sexual trauma. So
Mm-hmm.
I was in the military for 8 years. So my entire 8 years, it was great. Had no problem. My last 30 days in the military, I was sexually assaulted by two different men within the same month. And so
Oh.
that just really that messed me up. And
Mhm.
so post military for me has been very, very difficult, as far as me dealing with guys, and I don't trust anyone. And it's very hard for me to open up to men, unfortunately. And so I, dated very lightly, but usually they leave pretty frustrated or pissed off. And so it's been a little difficult, needless to say. So, whoever God has for me, they are going to be anointed and equipped to deal with my trauma because they really got to be patient. And, I believe God got that man for me, but he's in for um, some stuff.
Were both those men in your unit?
One, no, one was a civilian, the one of the movers, and the other one was in the military. I don't.
Hmm. Okay.
Okay. Well, we definitely appreciate you opening up and sharing that with us, Kimberly. MST or military sexual trauma is not something that we take lightly. In 2021, 8.4% of active duty women, which ranges to be about 19,300 women, and 1.5% of active duty men, which is about 16,600 men, reported having military sexual trauma. So it is real and it does happen to both men and women. It is not just a one sided thing.
That's what's reported.
That's what has been
A lot of it
reported.
go unreported. So it's
Absolutely.
probably, if we factor in, 3 to 6% more, or even more, we don't know. But just averaging the percentages, averaging in 3 to 6 more that has gone unreported, the numbers are, you would think, are astronomical.
Yeah,
So,
Absolutely.
and we
I,
have
I
to look
do.
at that.
I do want to say that it took me almost a decade to
Mm-hmm.
say anything, and to even start therapy because I just kind of I'm a pretty strong female, and pretty tough, and so I told people close to me, but I just kind of lived with it. So it happens where you can get assaulted and you can wait. It's not
Mm-hmm.
like when I see people on the news and they're like, "Why are they waiting 20 years?" And it happens. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes it takes that long for some, and sometimes the PTSD that happens in between those years, you don't know how it's affecting that person. And sometimes I was like, "Oh, I'm good," and a doctor was like, an
Maybe not.
anointed doctor, just she looked at me, she looked me in my eye. This is years later. Were you assaulted? And that's how it came out.
Mm-hmm.
So it happens. Women wait, they hold it. So don't just assume that it's about money or it's about anything. Sometimes that stuff is just hard to talk about.
Right. So, with that being said, we want to let anyone know if you have been a survivor of MST that you can go to your local VA and they will be able to assist you with that. You can also contact the General Information Hotline, which is 1-800 827 1000. They're available Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, MST is a tough topic, right? It gets your emotions all stirred up, and sometimes we may want to cry a little bit. So, to help us laugh about military life, we have our guest, Irene Cruz. Irene, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Hi, Irene. This is D. Wright. I'm Navy veteran. I just have a couple questions. When when and where did you join the military, the Marine Corps?
I joined in 1984 out of Chicago.
Ooh, okay.
Was this right after high school or?
No, I went to college for a few years before I joined the Marine Corps.
Okay. And so, um, What did you do in the military? How did you get into your field? Was it pre-selected or did you select it after you had been in for a while?
No, my recruiter pushed me into the field. Um, I guess when they looked at my scores from the ASVAB, he was like, "Oh, you should get into this field." But I learned later, well, he said it was hard for them to get people to qualify for that particular field. And I learned later, he pushed it so much because the recruiters got extra points for these certain fields that people couldn't get into.
Was it a lot of women in this field at the time that you joined?
Heck no.
So
I was the
this was
only,
a communication technician?
well, the official title was Air Traffic Control Communications Tech.
Okay.
Yeah, so no, I was the only female in my unit.
Is this what motivated you to be an outspoken advocate for women vets, or did that come later after you got out?
That came much later after I got out. I would say probably 20 years after I got out. Um, I ended up going to an event and there were so many women veterans. I hadn't been in a room with that many women veterans before, and listening to them. And I'm like, 20 years later, they got the same complaints that I had when I got out.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense. Yeah.
So, while you were in the military, what challenges did you have? I mean, it's the month of love, Valentine's Day. So was it challenging dating as a woman veteran in the military?
In the Marine Corps, I didn't date very much. I dated a couple of guys, and the second guy I dated asked me to marry him, and so I did.
Okay.
How quickly did you marry him? Because, military folks, they get married fairly quickly because, we move a lot. And if we don't, some people feel like if they don't get married, then that's where the separation comes from. You have to have a marriage in order for you all to move together to the same duty station. So was that the case where you married quickly?
No, not, it wasn't the case of us getting separate orders anywhere or like that. We were both stationed on the same base. I'll say
Was
I
it the
was very
BAH?
naive. Huh?
Was it for the housing?
No, I was very naive. Part of my background is from the South. And so in the South, a lot of men don't teach their women how to drive. And so I thought he really liked me because he let me drive his car. And
Okay.
so that's why I married him.
Okay, that's interesting.
He let you drive his car. What kind of car you have?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Okay. So, when you got out of the military, was it a big transition between the job that you did in the military and the job you ultimately decided on once you got out?
I got out in 1990, and it was kind of a culture shock because they didn't have the tools then that they have now to help you translate your military job to civilian life. So when I would go on interviews, they would ask a question and I really didn't know what they were talking about. And it was just that the terminology was different. And so I ended up having a hard time finding a job in electronics, which is how I ended up being a structural mechanic building airplanes.
Okay, that sounds very interesting. We know that you've performed in a lot of different plays. Is this something that you always wanted to do, or is it something that sort of found you later in your career?
It's something that I always wanted to do. When I was in high school, I did a monologue of a poem from Langston Hughes but I had younger siblings, and so I had to take care of them while my mom was at work. So I really didn't get a chance to do those things. And um, the first play um, kind of brought back all of that for me.
Now, how did you get started in the comedy field?
Well, Miss Daphne.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Daphne about to fall out of
I
chair.
know, because I was like,
she wasn't ready.
Well, at the time, she was putting on a comedy show, and I think at the time I was taking a class, so I couldn't attend the show, but we would meet afterwards and talk. And just, just talking about life in general. And then she was like, "Girl, you funny. You need to get on stage." And I said, "Nobody's listening to anything I have to say." And so I think after my class ended, I was able to go to one of her shows. And then I said before the end of the show, "Okay, I'll do it next month."
Yep.
But then a week and a half before the show, I realized I hadn't written one joke. And so that's how I got started.
Yes, I remember that. But you were just naturally funny. I was like, write down what you be saying, record what you be saying, and say that on stage.
Now, I saw that one of the plays, it was writing from the heart, and you had a part in there. I thought that was funny. It was like the funniest thing out of all the plays, all the little parts in that play. Yours was the funniest. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was funny.
That was the
So-
Uber.
You remember I asked Irene, the person that we originally had reading for that. We were doing a stage reading, and they couldn't make it. So I said, "Who could I get last minute? Who could come through?" And I thought of Irene because she's so funny, just naturally. So she actually read it for the writer, and he was like, "Hey, when we get ready to cast, I want you to bring her back because she scared everybody. I mean, everybody was laughing, and that was her first time really seeing it. She just interpreted the character a lot different than how anybody or how he was initially envisioning it.
She made it funny.
Yeah, she made it just over the top funny, and I think she brought a lot of personality into the character, and she ended up ultimately being cast in the role, and it was great.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. So Irene, I heard you doing like a tour now. You come from meeting Daphne to now you're like on stage is just
Got a line up, got people
line
going
up
up.
and rocking it. Can you tell us about your tour?
Well, it's not really a tour.
That's what we call it.
It's a series of comedy shows. It's at the same location because I wanted something where where I could develop the show. I got tired of trying to find a spot every month or every other month that I could put a show on. So I don't know, I prayed about it, and one day I posted something in a Facebook group, and someone responded and told me to call this particular lady. And she had a spot in the Baldwin Hills Mall. And I went to talk to her and see the location. It's not a typical comedy club, but the terms and everything worked for me. And so I said, okay, I'll take it. And I'm doing 2 shows a month from now through May.
Now, I see some of them are strictly civilian, and then some are all veterans. Why did you choose to do it like that?
Well, because I didn't know enough comedians that were veterans, or I didn't know they were veterans. A lot of times they don't say.
Oh, okay.
And so in order to fill the slots, I said, well, let's do one where all the comics are veterans and then one where they're civilians. But some of the civilian comics have military people in their family, and they actually have jokes about aspects of the military without actually being in it.
Mm-hmm. Do you think the shows are different? Do you think the chemistry is different when there's all the veterans on one show versus the civilian?
Yes, because with the veterans, it becomes a safe space that they can talk about things that they did that people who were not in the military may or may not understand. And it's just comfortable. Some comedians that I've known, they talked about things that I had never heard them talk about before on the military shows.
That sounds good. Well, I can't wait to go to your girl Peach's comedy show. And if we can roll back to Kim really quickly, because she's got some exciting things that she's been doing that she left out of her bio. And I think we all kind of fuss at her about that because she's doing things in the entertainment industry as well, just like Irene. She's won some awards for directing, and she told us about the location agent that she is. She worked on King Richard, which was a big movie. I think it won some awards as well. But I think she's done some stuff on her own independently. Kim, can you tell us about your independent work before we go? Unmute yourself. She's so respectful, put herself on mute.
I try. I can't. But I started doing independent film when I got out of the military. I was inspired by a friend of mine that I met my last year. He was a music producer. So I got out of the military and I went to school actually for music producing. And that led me into film because I recognized that music and film go together. A lot of times you don't think about all the technicalities that go behind film. So I started doing film in 2010. I did a web series called Never Stop Web Series that's on YouTube. I did 2 seasons of that. That started as a school project for my final, and it actually went viral back during the day when nobody used that term. So it went viral, and then all the actors wanted to continue working. So I did that over the next, maybe like up until 2013. And then I went to corporate, and then I moved to California in 2016, the end of 2016. But I was still doing my indie work. So I was still writing, even though I fell into location management. And then when I became bicoastal, I started doing more of my short films. I'm also a spoken word artist. One of the spoken word pieces that I did called Just Ask won in the Kingdomwood International Film Festival. It won for Best Mini Short, which was a category they actually created for me because they felt like it was just such a good piece. So I won that. I also do music videos. Music is very big in Atlanta, especially hip hop. So I work with a lot of Christian hip hop artists. One hip hop artist by the name of February Hill. She's actually my childhood best friend. I did one of her videos, and that video won last year for hottest music video. And then I also won for videographer of the year, and I was the only female in that category. So I was like very honored to have won that award that came out of nowhere. So I'm still working on some things right now. I'm working on a television series, my first comedy. So I'm very interested in your girl Peaches. I'm hearing her talk. I'm like,
Yeah, she can act too. She pretty funny.
Connections.
So that's I'm trying to get that picked up. So I did a pilot with no money, and so I got somebody looking at it. So we'll see what happens with that. But yep, a lot of little things in the works. But ultimately, I do want to get my movies out there, and I do write faith-based films.
All right.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm an actress too.
Put your plugs in now.
Gotta put my plugs in now before you blow up, and then I won't be able to contact you. I have to be paparazzi on you.
Well, we want to thank both of our female veterans, Kimberly DeWitt and Irene Cruz, your girl Peaches, for stopping by with us and chatting. We appreciate all of our veterans. So if you are interested in being interviewed and stopping by with us here on Stage Black, go ahead and send us an email at info@stageblack.com. If you like the work that we're doing. .org. I'm sorry. info@stageblack.org is down at the bottom. Yes. You can also donate if you like the work we're doing here and you want to make sure that we keep it going. You can donate to us. Yes. Cash App, $Stage Black. All right, we look forward to seeing you next month, the second Wednesday of every month at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We are live on YouTube,
Instagram, TikTok,
Shout it out,
Facebook.
Latia. She know them all. I
She
can't
know them
keep up.
all. She know them all. That's social media
Because
queen.
she set them all up. Okay. All right.
Stage Black, always been there.
Ain't
Not
going nowhere.
nowhere.
Welcome to Stage Black with your host, U.S. Army veteran Latia Suttle, U.S. Navy veteran Daphne Wright, and U.S. Marine Corps veteran Marnisha Mintlow. Always been here, not going anywhere.